Hey people, it's me again. So, anyways, now that it's May again, so in a way that 6 months ago was the presidential election, and in a way, I just knew that Trump was going to win in the back of my head at that point because of a lot of the things that were going on, in the last 4 years when it comes to the Biden administration and as far as when it comes to the Democrats and antics as far as that goes. And I think it was just a lot of other things, that the Democrats have done over the years that put them in this sort of predicament. So the reason I'm also talking about this sort of thing here is that, 18 months from now is going to be the midterm election. And I think when it comes to the midterm election, I think that, it all just depends on, what Senate seats are at play as far as that goes. But, for here in California, we're not in play this time around as far as that goes because the fact that we have a different set of different class of senators that are up for re-election in 2026. These were like the same who were up for re-election in 2020 and then in 2014 and 08 and then 02 and 96 and so on and so forth. Just as much as like the other ones that were up for re-election last year, as far as that goes. And then the ones that are up for re-election in 2028. So, considering how that would play out in the long run, I think it also depends on who's the effective leader as far as when it comes to the Democrats, as far as that goes. And then depending on how well they're going to be able to stand up against Trump is another thing, as far as that goes, and as well as being cohesive is another thing. Because there's a lot of infighting when it comes to the Democrats, whether if it's the neoliberal stooges who still want to hold the very last vestiges of power, because they're a dying breed of the Democrats. And then we have the woke dunderheads, that haven't really earned their stripes, as far as that goes. But, and then there's the people that are kind of caught in the middle as another thing. So, I think it just depends on whether or not they can be this cohesive. But then in a way, when it comes to like the Republicans can become cohesive, if need be, as far as what happened, during the Obama administration, they weren't really exactly together at that point, because all of them had different goals as far as that matter, as far as the different factions within the Republican Party. As far as, the Tea Partiers, now MAGA people, and then the regular neoconservatives, and then the paleo conservatives is like the other thing that they all clash upon, as far as the paleo conservatives that were still kind of there-ish in a way when it came to like McCain, or some of the other people that had that kind of views on that sort of thing there. But and then I think the thing with me is that I'm not really going to be all that certain if I'm ever going to really vote for a Republican again, given all the certain circumstances of that sort. And especially if there were a lot of people like me who grew up in the 90s and the aughts and see how awful neoconservatives are at that point and would never really want to touch, you know, the Republicans with a 10-foot pole, you know, and that's just one of the bigger things. And then when it came to, you know, the neoliberals, but there's also the paleo-liberals, but that was kind of like the ones that harkened back to New Deal Democrats, like Walter Mondale, and as far as that goes, or even Gerald Ford, for that matter, and a lot of other ones. But still, I think the Democrats still have their work cut out for them if they want to win big in the 2026 midterm election. But we'll see how it will go. So, in a way, I'm kind of hope against hope when it comes to, the Democrats getting their act together. So, anyways, talk to you guys later.